Right now, as I'm recording this, thousands of people in Iran are dying. The government cut off the internet 7 days ago. No phones, no messages, no way to call for help, no way to document what's happening. Complete digital darkness. And under that cover of silence, security forces are killing protesters in the streets. Initial reports suggest at least 12,000 people dead, possibly more. We don't know the real number because nobody can get information out. That's not a failure of technology. That's the purpose of the technology. And here in the UK, on January the 8th, the exact same day Iran shut down its internet, our government implemented new mandates that build the infrastructure for the exact same kind of control. I'm Ben Parry, one of the founders of Whisper AI, and I need you to understand something. What's happening in Iran isn't some distant dystopia. The tools being mandated in the UK right now, client-side scanning, mandatory monitoring, centralised control, those are the same tools authoritarian regimes use to silence dissent and hide atrocities. This isn't about protecting children, it's about control. And if we don't fight back now, while we still can, we won't get another chance. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in Iran right now, because this is what total digital control looks like in practice. The protests started in late December over economic collapse. People were hungry, angry, desperate. They took to the streets. And on January the 8th, the Iranian government flipped a switch and cut off the entire country from the internet. Not just social media, not just messaging apps, everything. Within 30 minutes, internet traffic dropped 90%. Within hours, it was at zero. For the first time ever, they even blocked Starlink's satellite internet, the one thing that helped protesters stay connected during the 2022 Women, Life, Freedom uprising. And then, under that blanket of digital silence, security forces opened fire. Reports are emerging of thousands killed in the first 48 hours alone. Security forces going door to door, confiscating satellite dishes, seizing security camera footage to identify protesters. People are disappearing. Amnesty International calls it digital darkness, a tool to hide human rights violations. But it's worse than that. It's a tool to commit human rights violations with impunity. Because if nobody can document it, if nobody can share it, did it even happen? And here's what breaks my heart. Before the blackout, people were sending voice notes, sharing videos, calling for help, and then silence. Their families outside Iran don't know if they're alive or dead. The world can't see what's happening. Even Cloudflare's traffic data shows Iranian internet connectivity at essentially 0%. This is what happens when a government has total control over digital infrastructure. This is what happens when there's a kill switch. This is what happens when privacy is treated as a privilege that can be revoked instead of a fundamental right. So what does this have to do with you here in the UK? On January the 8th, 2026, the exact same day Iran shut down its internet, the UK government enacted a major new mandate under the Online Safety Act. Specifically, they implemented requirements for client-side scanning. And the infrastructure being built here creates the exact same capability for control. Let's look at the official announcement. The headline focuses on cyber flashing, unsolicited explicit images. And on the surface, that seems reasonable. Nobody wants that. But read this phrase carefully. Compelling tech firms to stop this content before it reaches users. Before it reaches users. Think about that. In the physical world, if someone sends you a letter, the Royal Mail doesn't open it, read it, and decide whether you should see it. The envelope arrives sealed. You open it, you decide. But under this mandate, every digital message, every photo, every thought you share is being scanned before you even press send. The government is requiring tech companies to install monitoring systems inside your device, what's called client-side scanning. That examines your content before it's encrypted, before it's sent, before you've even decided if you want to send it. They frame it as a safety feature, but it's a wire trap. It's surveillance built into your phone's operating system. It's the government sitting in your living room, reading over your shoulder every single time you type a message. And here's the thing. You can't stop content from being seen unless you scan it first. There's no other way. So when they say they're stopping harmful content, what they're really saying is, we're reading everything. The Online Safety Act affects over 100,000 services worldwide. If you run any platform with the UK users, messaging apps, forums, search engines, comment sections, you're in scope. The penalties, up to 18 million or 10% of global revenue, whichever is higher. That's not a suggestion. That's a mandate backed by the power to destroy companies that don't comply. Now, the government says companies can use accredited technology to comply. But let's be clear about what that actually means. Apps like WhatsApp and Signal are supposed to be end-to-end encrypted. That means your message is scrambled on your device, enters gibberish, and only unscrambled when it reaches the recipient. Not even the company can read it in transit. That's the promise. But how do you scan something that's encrypted? The only way is to scan it before it's encrypted on your device, before you hit send. That's client-side scanning. Imagine if every time you wrote a letter by hand, there was a government official sitting in your living room reading every word before you sealed the envelope. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what this technology does. It's automated, it runs constantly, and it can be updated remotely without your knowledge or consent. The technology is typically AI-based, algorithms trained to identify prohibited content. But AI systems aren't perfect. They have false positive rates. They misidentify innocent content as harmful. They can be fooled by slight modifications to images. And most importantly, they can be reprogrammed. This is why Signal and WhatsApp have threatened to leave the UK market entirely. Signal's president, Meredith Whittaker, has been crystal clear. If they implement client-side scanning, they can no longer honestly say they provide end-to-end encryption. The encryption might still work in transit, but there's now a scanner running before encryption happens. And here's the fundamental security principle that governments always ignore. There is no such thing as a backdoor for the good guys only. Once you build a scanning mechanism, that mechanism can be exploited, hacked, repurposed, or expanded, always. We saw this in 2021 when Apple tried to implement client-side scanning for child abuse material. The technical implementation was sophisticated, but security researchers immediately identified fatal flaws. The system could be manipulated. The database of prohibited content could be poisoned with false positives. And once the infrastructure existed, it could be expanded to scan for anything. After massive backlash, Apple shelved the plans. But what Apple proposed voluntarily, the UK government is now mandating by law. Let me be absolutely clear about what this really is. This is about freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. These aren't abstract political concepts. They're the foundation of everything we claim to value as a democratic society. The government says this is about protecting women and children from harmful content. And yes, cyber flashing is a real problem. Self-harm content has real impacts. Child abuse material is horrific and should be stopped. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is arguing otherwise. But here's the question we have to ask. Is mass surveillance of every private communication a proportionate response? Is building the infrastructure for totalitarian control the right way to address these harms? Because right now, the AI is looking for what they call priority offences, cyber flashing, self-harm content, child abuse material, terrorism. But the Online Safety Act is explicitly designed to be future-proof. That means the list can be expanded through secondary legislation, by ministerial order, without new primary legislation, without extensive parliamentary debate. Let me give you concrete examples of how this could work. A future Home Secretary decides misinformation is a priority offence. Suddenly, the same AI scanning for explicit images is now flagging your private messages, questioning government policy, your research into controversial topics, your discussions about climate change or vaccine efficacy or political corruption, or encouraging illegal activity gets expanded. Right now, it's focused on terrorism and serious crime. But what about messages discussing civil disobedience? What about sharing information about protest tactics? What about discussing ways to protect your privacy and circumnavigate surveillance? Think of being paranoid? Look at what just happened with digital IDs. Initially framed as a simple right-to-work verification, government ministers quickly discussed expanding it to welfare benefits, healthcare, banking, voting. The Minister for Intergovernmental Relations literally said the goal was to shut down the legacy state. But after nearly 3 million people signed a petition in late 2025, the fourth largest petition in UK history, the government was forced to backtrack. Just this week, they've effectively abandoned the mandatory aspects. That proves public pressure works. But here's the problem. Digital IDs were visible. People could understand them. But client-side scanning, it's invisible. It's technical. Most people have no idea it's happening, and that makes it indefinitely more dangerous. Once you build the infrastructure for mass surveillance, once you create a system where every private thought can be monitored, you don't get to control who uses that system forever. The infrastructure outlasts the politicians who created it. It outlasts the specific threats it was designed to address, and it becomes available to whoever controls it next. Look at Iran. They didn't build the internet kill switch in a day. They built it gradually, piece by piece, always with reasonable sounding justifications. National security, protecting public order, preventing harmful content. And then, when people rose up demanding freedom, they had exactly the tool they needed to hide the massacre. That's the pattern. That's always the pattern. You build the cage while telling people it's for the protection, and by the time they realize they're trapped, it's too late. But here's the thing. We're not powerless. There is another way. And this is why we built Whisper AI the way we did. When we started Whisper, we made a fundamental architectural choice. No servers, no cloud, no central point of control. Everything runs locally on your device. Most AI assistants you're used to, ChatGPT, Gemini, Alexa, Siri, they take your questions, send them to massive server farms, process them there, and send back a response. That architecture makes them service providers under mandates like those in the Online Safety Act. And service providers can be regulated. They can be compelled to monitor. They can be required to scan because there's a server, a central point of control that regulators can target. But Whisper is different. It runs 100% on your device's silicon, the same chips that power your camera and face recognition. There's no pipe to tap. There's no server receiving your data. There's no company in the middle. There's no central database to raid or compel. We don't have your data, so we can't be forced to hand it over or scan it. We didn't build a service, we built a tool. Like a calculator, like a text editor, like a hammer. You own it, it runs on your hardware. The processing happens in your device's memory and nowhere else. And here's the critical part. Whisper works completely offline. No internet connection required. Think about what that means. In Iran right now, every cloud-based AI is useless. ChatGPT, gone. Gemini, gone. Siri, gone. Because they all require an internet connection to function. They all rely on sending your data to a server. But an AI that runs on device, that works offline, it keeps working even when the government flips the kill switch. It keeps working when they cut the internet. It keeps working when they try to control what you can access and what you can say. This is what we call sovereign AI. Your intelligence, your thoughts, your questions, your AI, all of it stays within your own digital borders, meaning you own your device under your own control, functioning independently of any infrastructure that can be shut down or monitored. Now, this requires trade-offs. On-device AI models are smaller than cloud because they have to fit in your phone's memory. They can't draw on massive server farms, but the technology is advancing rapidly. The AI chip in your current smartphone is more powerful than supercomputers from 20 years ago, and it's getting exponentially more powerful every generation. We're also building multiple specialized models, different bots with different skills. We're implementing a smart file lookup system so your AI can learn from your documents without ever sending them to a server. And when you do need live internet data, we're building controls so you can see exactly what information is being shared, keeping you in complete control of your data. So here's what you need to do. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, now. First, move your processing local. Stop using cloud-based tools for anything sensitive. Your thoughts, your questions, your documents, your research. Look for applications that explicitly process everything on device. For AI assistants, that's what Whisper does. For notes, use apps like Obsidian that store everything locally. For passwords, use managers that don't sync to the cloud unless you explicitly choose to. Every time you choose a local tool over a cloud service, you're taking back control. You're making yourself resilient against shutdown. You're removing yourself from the surveillance infrastructure. Second, support and use end-to-end encrypted communications. Use Signal, use Proton Mail, use services that have demonstrated a commitment to privacy, even when it costs them market access. Even if those apps are under pressure, even if some may be forced to leave or compromise, don't give up on encrypted communication. Your usage supports their ability to keep fighting. Third, stay informed and get involved. Follow organizations like Big Brother Watch, Open Rights Group, and Privacy International. They're fighting the legal battles, filing the court challenges, advocating in Parliament. They understand both the technical detail and the legal implications. Support them if you can. Donate, sign petitions, share their work. Fourth, talk about this. Share this video. Explain to your friends and family what client-side scanning actually means. Most people don't understand. They hear stopping harmful content and think it sounds reasonable. They don't realize it means scanning everything all the time with no warrants, no oversight, and no limits on future expansion. The digital ID U-turn happened because 3 million people made noise. That kind of public pressure forced a complete government reversal on a flagship policy. We can do that again, but only if people understand what's at stake. And fifth, understand that digital sovereignty isn't given to you. It's not granted by governments or bestowed by corporations. It's something you claim for yourself through conscious choices about which tools you use and how you use them. Every message you send through an encrypted app is an act of resistance. Every time you process something locally instead of in the cloud, you're refusing to participate in your own surveillance. Every time you help someone else understand these issues, you're building collective resilience. Let me end with this. Right now in Iran, people are fighting and dying for the freedoms we take for granted. The freedom to speak, the freedom to organize, the freedom to simply exist without constant monitoring and control. They can't send messages, they can't call for help, they can't document what's happening to them because their government built the infrastructure to cut them off from the world and then used that infrastructure exactly as that infrastructure was always designed to be used. We're building that same infrastructure here, right now, with good intentions perhaps, with reasonable sounding justifications, but the infrastructure doesn't care about intentions. It only cares about capabilities. And the capabilities to scan every private message is also the capability to silent dissent. The capability to protect children is also the capability to suppress protest. The capability to stop harmful content is also the capability to control what people can say, think, and share. These are not separate things. They're the same thing. The same technology, the same infrastructure, just different applications. The question is, do we build it? Do we accept it? Do we normalize constant surveillance as the price of using digital technology? Or do we say no? Do we choose tools that work for us instead of watching us? Do we build a digital world where freedom isn't something that can be switched off by whoever's in power? I believe we still have a choice, but I also believe the window is closing fast. Iran chose to build centralized control, and now their people are paying the price in blood. We can choose differently. We can choose sovereignty. We can choose freedom. We can choose tools that work offline, that run locally, that can't be shut down or monitored or controlled. But we have to choose now while we still can. Thanks for watching. If you want to see what sovereign offline AI actually looks like, check out Whisper AI in the App Store. It's available for both iOS and Android. And if this video made you angry, if it scared you, if it made you realize what's at stake, good. Share it, talk about it, fight back. Stay safe, stay free, and stay sovereign.